The war in Ukraine, a conflict etched into the fabric of the 21st century, continues to cast a long shadow over Eastern Europe. The echoes of artillery fire and the sight of devastated cities serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of this prolonged struggle. Families have been torn apart, and communities have been displaced, creating a humanitarian crisis that reverberates far beyond the borders of Ukraine. The conflict, which first ignited in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea, escalated dramatically in 2022 with a full-scale invasion. This invasion marked a significant turning point, not just for Ukraine, but for the entire international community. The geopolitical ramifications have been profound, with alliances being tested and new coalitions forming in response to the aggression. As the world grapples with the implications of this ongoing war, a new development has emerged, one that has captured the attention of policymakers and analysts alike: a marked reduction in Ukrainian missile strikes against targets within Russia. This shift in strategy has led to intense speculation about the reasons behind it. Some suggest it could be a tactical decision aimed at conserving resources, while others believe it might be a gesture towards de-escalation, a signal that Ukraine is open to negotiations. This development coincides with a pivotal moment in American politics: the impending inauguration of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States. Trump's return to power has been met with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. His previous tenure was marked by unconventional approaches to both domestic and foreign policy, leaving many to wonder how his leadership will influence the current global dynamics. Trump's return to the Oval Office, after a tumultuous 4 years followed by a 4-year hiatus, has injected a significant degree of uncertainty into the global political landscape. His administration's policies on international conflicts, trade, and alliances are subjects of intense debate. Will he adopt a more isolationist stance, or will he seek to assert American influence more aggressively on the world stage? His past statements and actions, often characterized by a disdain for traditional diplomatic norms, have left many wondering how his administration will choose to engage with the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The world watches closely, as the decisions made in the coming months could have far-reaching consequences not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for the global order as a whole. The stakes are high and the path forward remains uncertain as history unfolds before our eyes. Recent reports from intelligence agencies and military observers paint a clear picture. Ukraine's once frequent missile strikes against Russian targets have dwindled in recent months. This shift has not gone unnoticed by military analysts and geopolitical experts who have been closely monitoring the situation. Data compiled by the Ministry of Defense reveals a striking change in the frequency and scale of these strikes. The data indicates a deliberate and strategic pivot in Ukraine's military approach, suggesting a deeper, more calculated plan at play. While Ukrainian forces previously relied on a strategy of smaller, more frequent attacks, they have since shifted towards larger, less frequent strike waves beginning in August 2024. This new approach appears to be designed to maximize impact while conserving resources. This change in tactics is further corroborated by military activity data, which shows a precipitous decline in Ukrainian missile launches. Analysts believe this could be a response to evolving battlefield conditions and the need to adapt to new threats. In November and December 2024 alone, Ukrainian forces launched 40% fewer missiles than in the preceding months. This significant reduction has raised questions about Ukraine's long-term strategy and its ability to sustain prolonged military engagements. This reduction in offensive operations comes against a backdrop of continued Russian aggression, including a devastating mass aerial assault on December 25, 2024, which crippled Ukraine's energy grid and resulted in significant casualties. The attack not only caused widespread destruction but also highlighted the ongoing vulnerability of Ukraine's critical infrastructure. In response to these challenges, Ukrainian officials have been working tirelessly to rebuild and fortify their defenses. International aid has been pouring in, with countries around the world offering support to help Ukraine recover and strengthen its military capabilities. Diplomatic efforts have also intensified, with international leaders convening to discuss the situation and explore potential solutions. These discussions aim to provide Ukraine with the necessary resources and support to withstand further aggression and maintain its sovereignty. On the ground, Ukrainian soldiers continue to train rigorously, preparing for any eventuality. New military equipment is being deployed, and strategic defense installations are being reinforced to ensure that Ukraine remains resilient in the face of ongoing threats. Despite the challenges, the spirit of resilience among the Ukrainian people remains unbroken. Community rebuilding efforts are underway, and the hopeful faces of Ukrainian citizens reflect a determination to overcome adversity and build a brighter future. As Ukraine navigates this complex and evolving conflict, the nation's unity and solidarity continue to shine through. Moments of triumph and hope serve as a testament to the enduring strength and courage of the Ukrainian people. The reasons behind Ukraine's decision to curtail its missile strikes remain a subject of intense debate among military strategists and political commentators. This decision has sparked numerous discussions and analyses, with experts from various fields weighing in on the potential motivations and implications. The complexity of the situation cannot be overstated, as it involves a delicate balance of military strategy, resource management, and geopolitical considerations. Some analysts posit that the reduction in strikes is a strategic maneuver designed to conserve precious military resources. By limiting the frequency and intensity of missile strikes, Ukraine may be aiming to ensure that its military capabilities are not exhausted prematurely. This approach could be seen as a way to maintain a sustainable level of operational readiness, allowing for more calculated and effective use of force in the future. Faced with an ongoing war of attrition, Ukraine may be prioritizing the preservation of its remaining military assets for future offensives or defensive operations. The nature of attritional warfare demands a careful allocation of resources, as both sides seek to wear down the other's capabilities over time. In this context, conserving strength for decisive moments could be a key factor in achieving long-term strategic objectives. The ongoing conflict has taken a heavy toll on Ukraine's infrastructure and military capabilities. Cities and towns have been devastated, with countless buildings reduced to rubble. The human cost is equally staggering, with many lives lost and communities displaced. This widespread destruction has inevitably strained the country's ability to sustain prolonged military engagements. Years of fighting have depleted stockpiles of weapons and ammunition, while Western support, though significant, has not been able to fully replenish Ukraine's war-torn arsenal. The logistical challenges of transporting and distributing aid, coupled with the sheer scale of the conflict, mean that gaps in supply persist. This reality underscores the importance of judiciously managing existing resources. In the face of these challenges, conserving resources for future battles may be a pragmatic if difficult necessity. By adopting a more measured approach to military engagements, Ukraine can better position itself to respond to evolving threats and opportunities. This strategy requires not only careful planning and execution, but also a deep understanding of the broader geopolitical landscape. Ultimately, the goal is to ensure that Ukraine remains resilient and capable of defending its sovereignty in the long term. Another school of thought suggests that Ukraine's decision to scale back its missile strikes is not merely a matter of military pragmatism, but rather a calculated gamble on the global stage. By reducing its offensive operations, Ukraine may be attempting to signal its willingness to engage in diplomatic negotiations with Russia, potentially paving the way for a negotiated settlement to the conflict. This strategy of de-escalation, if it is indeed the motivation behind Ukraine's actions, carries with it a significant degree of risk. By appearing to soften its stance, Ukraine risks emboldening Russia, potentially encouraging further aggression. Moreover, a negotiated settlement would likely require concessions from both sides, concessions that Ukraine may be reluctant to make. The timing of Ukraine's strategic shift, coinciding as it does with Donald Trump's return to the presidency, has fueled speculation that the two events may be inextricably intertwined. Trump's previous pronouncements on the conflict in Ukraine have been characterized by a distinct lack of enthusiasm for continued U.S. involvement. Throughout his first term in office, Trump repeatedly questioned the wisdom of providing extensive military aid to Ukraine, often characterizing the conflict as a European problem. He also expressed a desire to improve relations with Russia and its president, Vladimir Putin, a desire that frequently seemed to supersede any concerns about Russia's aggressive actions in Ukraine.